Hello everyone, welcome back to Intuitive Conversations with Tamara and Chantel. I'm Chantel Neufeld.
I'm Tamara Franz.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we thought we would acknowledge the fact that we're all living in a time of huge uncertainty on so many levels. It seems like we're going through our days waiting for the shoe to drop in a lot of ways. We have a huge situation going on in the Middle East that's affecting the world in many ways. Having an effect on the economy and on the uncertainty of where things are going to go. Gas prices are rising and all those sorts of things. So what does that look like within the next few months? How's that going to affect pretty much every country in the world? But then we're also looking at advances in technology and AI and how that's going to affect our jobs and the world, and for people that are trying to chart their course into the future, what does that look like when they're thinking about study options and what sector of the economy they might want to work in. We've got shifting conversations happening in lots of areas of our culture. Even just if you're on social media at all, the shifting conversation between men and women in terms of how do we relate with each other in the era of revelations from the Epstein files and other major things that have exploded onto the scene. And so we know we've talked quite a lot about systems breaking down and things unraveling, and we're obviously in the thick of it now. It's not a future thing, it's ongoing. And so what does that look like for each one of us, and how do we navigate that, and what is the future that we move towards when we don't even know what it looks like yet?
Yeah, because people want safety so much and they're just grasping on like what used to be safe in the past, but as people, we're evolving too, and we're learning to trust each other, we're learning to trust ourselves, we're learning to trust the universe. It's just a new way of being than how we've been in the past, because structures used to be more secure, or they felt more safe and secure anyways. We could trust in leadership more, and now with not being able to trust leadership as much, we're having to really trust ourselves, trust the universe, and build new things.
Yeah, and that feels like a lot of shifting sand. Like when you can't even necessarily trust a video that you click on YouTube. Is that actually the real person? Is this an AI generated video, taking this famous person and creating with a voice that sounds like theirs? And it's really hard then to know what to trust. And we talked a little bit before we started this podcast about the fact that we used to have sort of this social contract around the major institutions in our society, church and government and the legal system, those kinds of things, that they sort of provided a moral compass. And maybe we didn't have to do as much of our own discernment and thinking, because we felt that we could trust that teachers would teach with integrity, right? That pastors behind the pulpit would speak with integrity, and more or less the values. They knew better. Yeah, that we kind of had a shared collection of values that we more or less could trust. People would, even if they didn't necessarily go to the same church that we went to, even if maybe they went to a private school and we went to a public school, or even if maybe they were conservative and we were, liberal or NDP in Canada, or, some other iteration of political, there was still kind of this idea that there were common human values. And that's all come into question. So
I feel like there are still common human values, but it's not so much in the leadership that we see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's that famous saying, like, think globally and act locally. And I have found that for me, what has been restoring my faith kind of in humanity and in our ability to hang together, even through some of these toughest challenges that we've maybe faced ever, is that on the local level, people will build relationships and come together. And in my small town of 5,000-ish, we have a major initiative that has come about in the last few years where a local church donated or sold their building for $1 to the town, and an organization has taken it over and created a space that brings people together, that plans events, that does food rescue from our local groceries. People can come and drop in and have coffee and muffins, or Thursday lunch is always free.
It feels very heart-centered when you like, because I've been there, so I feel like it's heart-centered when I'm there. And how you describe it just feels very different than like the churches I grew up in, which were very mind-centered, very right and wrong, black and white centered, and like you're either in or you're out. But this is more of a heart-centered, where it doesn't matter if we disagree, we still love.
Right. And I'm there at least a couple of times a week, and my experience is generally, unless something really noteworthy has been happening in the news, conversations don't often move towards politics. We're talking about our lives, and we're getting to know each other and building connections, and the community exchange has just become a place where people can come and feel welcome and feel safe, and you'll end up sitting beside and talking with people that you might never connect with in your normal social circles or whatever, and that's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. And when we think about the world that we're needing to build because an old one is passing away, then you think about building bridges, building connections, and that is the true strength of humanity, I think.
And it's more valuable than money. It's more valuable than stuff that people collect, or planes, or hoarding of resources. The relationships are more, they give a sense of safety and of connection, and those are basic human needs.
Yeah, and significance, right? Like everybody wants to know that they are somebody. We were also talking a little bit earlier in our own conversation about the fact that we have a segment of our population that is extremely, obscenely wealthy, people in the billions, raking in billions every year. And these are the people who have tried their best to create that certainty for themselves, right? I'm going to manipulate the market, or I'm going to capture this entire sector of the economy, or I'm going to donate so that I can influence political people. And no matter what levers of power they try to manipulate, it's never enough. So obviously the security isn't going to be found in however much you hoard and stockpile for yourself. And it's never going to be found in rigging the game so that you win every time.
Because that's not fun.
A fake win isn't a real win, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't build the confidence that you know who you are and that power is legitimately yours.
And in the world, it won't build the world that they want either if they're not sharing resources and making sure that it's a win for, not only them, but for others, for humanity, for the planet. If it's not a win for the planet, then it's going to affect them too.
Right. So in this time of uncertainty, I think like trying to play the game like it's always been played isn't going to bring us the security we're looking for, because all of those systems are unraveling and passing away. So where do we go? And there's that old saying, right? Every general is planning for the previous war.
But you can't do it that way anymore.
And we see it in real time, right? Yeah. That we've got America with all their firepower that is caught in a quagmire because warfare has changed and it's being done differently. And they went in with an assumption of might as the primary logic of war, and are finding out very quickly that that's not how the game works anymore. So what do we move towards? If we can, let's say, make the shift from uncertainty toward vision.
That quote that I had before, I'm trying to remember it. Who was the person?
Buckminster Fuller?
Yes. It was, the gist of it was to, instead of making things the way that they were to fix it, you have to kind of start from scratch and start with something entirely new, or like create something entirely new.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we're at right now. Instead of reaching to the to the past and being like, let's take that and use it, we're just like, actually, what is our vision?
Mm-hmm.
What vision
Yeah.
do we want to create?
I think it's been a long time since we've been asked as a humanity, what is our vision? We've been told and we've been conditioned through advertising and propaganda that the vision for us is that we become consumers and keep the market running, right? We keep the market healthy so that the pyramid can exist and the wealth can be channeled upward and the people at the top can maintain their position. And then maybe if they're feeling generous, enough of it trickles down. That's not vision.
No.
So what is your vision if you think about the new world that we're looking to build as this old one is passing away?
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a way of being than a way of doing. I feel like trust is like a huge thing. To trust yourself, to trust the universe. It's not putting our trust in leaders anymore. I feel like making sure things are a win for ourselves and others and the planet is very important. If you leave only one of those out, it's unbalanced the creation of the future, especially if empaths leave themselves out of the equation. You first have to check in with yourself every morning, check in with your parts, make sure your needs are met before you can go out and, help the community and build what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a very much sort of in the moment, and like I find myself in a lot of uncertainty right now. I'm between jobs, and I'm finding myself having to really trust the universe and really trust myself and my gifts, and have that belief that everything's going to work out, and just take it bit by bit, because you can't fix everything all at once. You can't follow every possibility all at once. You have to just really be like, what is right for me in this moment? Do the next right thing, like the Frozen 2 movie talks about. And yeah, that's
the next right thing.
The next right thing.
Yeah. The way appears as you walk forward.
Exactly that.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, creativity is going to come back. We need the artists, we need the dreamers, we need the creatives. I was at a beautiful choral concert. It was Beethoven, the whole concert. It was glorious. And I sat there thinking, in a world ostensibly being taken over by AI, who's going to create these glorious, soaring compositions, vocal and orchestral compositions? Who's going to create a Sagrada Familia Cathedral, like is almost finished being built in Barcelona? These great things come from something beyond us, right? So when we get in touch with the transcendent, however anybody wants to name that, something bigger than ourselves, right? Something bigger than filling your bank account, something bigger than reaching the top of the ladder at whatever X company, something bigger than making a name for yourself, something that contributes. And I think people getting involved locally, because that's where we're going to be building bridges, right? We can go on and debate each other on social media, and I see this huge, almost like a war happening now between men and women in the light of the rage that women are understandably feeling because of all of the revelations with Epstein files and Giselle Pellicot in France and what her husband was doing with her. And it's just become evident how widespread the abuse of girls and women and boys and young men has been. People abusing with impunity and seemingly no justice now to be done because the government itself is involved in covering it all up. So there is a lot of rage, and this idea that under patriarchy, women, bought into the role that they had so that they would receive the protection from those that had more power and privilege above. And in the end, it was a false promise.
I feel like women are trying to find a different way to be safe now.
Well, and I think they're expressing rage, right? And men are understandably feeling attacked. And yet
Anger's
also
defending boundaries.
and also feeling many of them unwilling to acknowledge the range of what's been going on. And so yeah, there's a debate going on, but how does it become a helpful debate that moves us forward in terms of new partnerships? None of this sort of hierarchy or power over relationships. How do we work together? Because I think the only future that's viable is a future that is a partnership future. We can't
give our power away.
Right. And that means all of us as humans becoming empowered and being able to know how to discern whether leaders are trustworthy or not, whether potential partners are trustworthy or not. How do we get in touch with the highest values? And we've talked about this a lot, right? Taking time to discern, what do I really stand for? What do I want my life to stand for? What are my highest beliefs and values? And then choose to live by them and not necessarily expect that our institutions are going to support that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it as moving away from vampiric relationships, and I feel like both sides contribute to that. It's not just the vampire that contributes to the vampiric relationship, it's the person giving their power away freely, or the one who doesn't believe that they are enough, that they can meet their own needs, that they have to outsource.
And that's a really interesting dynamic and hard to see from the disempowered person's perspective, because it often takes a crisis. For me, it took going through a cancer journey to realize how much I gave my power away in relationships and in group dynamics. And a lot of that was conditioning around just being a compassionate person, an empathic person, wanting to...
And also being safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing as a woman where the power balance lies so that you don't necessarily tread on dangerous ground and
you don't want any bad energy coming towards you because you feel it so deeply.
Yeah. But men too, like men have had their power siphoned away from them. You use the word vampiric. I think that capitalism has become a vampiric system. Patriarchy has become a vampiric system. And so pulling away from all of these dynamics that rob us of our power and being able to quietly stand our ground. I mean, we see how many politicians now just completely lack a backbone to stand up for what's right and to stand up against things that are horrific. So we as human beings, each one of us needs to take responsibility for our own power. But that also means cultivating our own power.
Yeah, and I feel like that starts every morning with ourselves, checking in and meeting our needs to the best of our ability, and then being able to go out and relate to others from that full cup versus going out with an empty cup, or going out with a victim mentality of like, you know, the world owes me something.
And knowing what the healthy boundaries are too. Like, I don't necessarily owe this person anything either, just because they occupy this position or have this title. If they are not operating in good faith, if they have fallen out of integrity, I owe nothing. Yeah.
Amanda Flaker uses the words, you can't have communion with other people without sovereignty. Like, it's not true communion.
Yeah.
It's more of a transactional thing that's going on. It's not an actual relationship.
And healthy relationships on any level depend on both people standing solidly in their own power. It's really interesting, as I have been a student of astrology and finishing up my studies, when you look at relationships and you look at the dynamics, of course there are going to be certain dynamics that make a relationship easier, but those are not necessarily going to lead so much to growth in a relationship, right? And on the other hand, there can be some very challenging dynamics that you can see right away looking at a chart. But when two people are conscious and willing to work, and those can lead them.
The goal is growth, and
And
connection.
those can lead into true empowerment, but the consciousness has to be there.
For sure.
And we have been really drawn into unconsciousness from birth, being surrounded by the messaging of our culture, which is buy, consume, make yourself look somebody by, adhere to these beauty standards.
Yeah. Yeah. So to sum up, take back your power, move into your heart space, get out of the black and white, right and wrong thinking, and just make decisions from your heart. Yeah.
And maybe turn the script around, and can uncertainty become an opportunity for us because things loosen up, and now instead of just defaulting to the way things have always been, we have a chance to actually bring vision and intentionality and create a future.
Yeah, a future we're excited about.
So
Alrighty.
until next time.
Keep following your heart song.